Hello, hello. This is the my artifact episode number 2174. Today's date is 8 February 2021. Time is 21:41. That means 9:41 p.m. Okay. So right now we are making artifact episode English. Why? Because of that, I'm kind of attending lectures of filmmaking and video productions and motion picture. So how is this supposed to be happen when we are doing video production, and what is some sort of categories, what are the things we do need to understand, all those things. I'm kind of understanding these things, attending a lecture, making it notes, and um, important thing is that when you are making such a notes, you do need to put that notes into your head. And how does I have to do that? You do need to recall everything what the said in the lecture. Okay, because it's really important, because when you are writing to your notebook, okay, that is okay, but it's just like you do need to put all those information in your head. So for that thing you do need to recall everything. Okay, so I'm doing it that, but there is another way. When you are doing everything in English, it will be uh, so you can did this by understanding everything, and also you are speaking in English, so you will also practicing English. What do you have to talk about it? So everything. Okay, so you get the subject and you do need to talk about everything in English. So it's really good thing, because you are achieving two target at the same times, and it will improve your quality, not only filmmaking but also English, because English you have to understand and you have to speak well or fluent. So yes. uh, and Earlier that I also record filmmaking chapter 1 about what are basic things you do need to understand for the filmmaking, and I also tell everything in English session, and I feel really good while I talking this thing. It is really much better. Okay, so right now I'm understanding lesson number 2. Is lesson number 2 is kind of like a bit technical term, and the name is frames per seconds, uh, frames per seconds, resolutions, and aspect ratio. Yes, those are the three things you do need to understand while recording and production. Yes, because while you are shooting, these are the really important, like what is the frame rate, what is the resolution, what is your aspect ratio. So let's start from let's start from frames per seconds. Okay, yes. First thing you do need to understand, while a production, video production, it is important thing is capturing the moment. Okay, because capturing moment is really important. When there are lots of setting while you are before you before you do need to record or shoot, there are lots of setting you do need to understand, like aspect ratio, frames, and resolution, everything. Yes, but there is a really most important thing, is that your subject or your content, because or capturing the moment, because capturing the moment is really essential. Okay, so it's just like when the moment is kind of like a happening once in a lifetime. Okay, like a wedding situation. Okay, So you don't have a time to set all those things, like what is your aspect ratio, frames, and everything. Okay, you just go and shoot. Okay, because at that time it's kind of like a really tight situation. Okay, you don't have time to set all those things. You don't have time to set, yeah, the exposure and everything. Just put all those things in auto mode and shoot it, because at that time it is really important. Most of the filmmakers, most of the news reporter, they did that. Okay, because they are also really professional, but they don't have time. So basically what they do, they just record in auto mode. What does auto mode do? Auto mode is kind of exposing the correct light and record everything in standard frame rate, that is a 24 fps. Okay, that is a kind of like a really auto mode. Okay, it's not auto, it's already standard mode for basically what we are seeing, like cinema, tv shows or whatever. It's everything in 24 fps. Okay, so it's basically standard. Okay, so when you are a kind of like a hurry situation or kind of like a really capturing the moment situation, I prefer to use auto mode, because auto mode is kind of like a really good. Yes, but I'm not really recommend this thing. Why? I'm telling you why. Okay, yeah, I'm not, sorry, that is a really wrong question. uh I'm recommending to do this. Yes. Why? Because capturing the moment is really essential. Yes, but it's just like there is some sort of setting that you can set all those things, like most of the dslr cameras are, most of the mobile phone, no, not mobile phone, most of the dslr camera, you can set all those things very rapidly. It's not so tough. Light, like you do need to expose little bit of light. So there is a scroller on the Canon camera, as also Nikon or also Sony camera. You can scroll and you can set the exposure. Also, you can set ISO quickly as possible. Like most of the time, uh, people use 100 ISO. It is really good in daylight situation. 100 ISO good. In night or low light situation, it may be 600 or 500 ISO is had enough. Don't make it too much far. uh, and you can set all those things as quickly as possible. Okay, so it's just like in modern camera, you can set all those things as quickly as you can possible. Yes, but yeah, and why I'm telling you all those things, why? Because of that, when you push the record button, you cannot set. Okay, you just need to composition and you just need to record. Okay, because while you are shooting, you cannot set ISO in previous camera. Okay, but right now most of the mirrorless camera or most of the modern camera, they have some sort of ability to, you can obviously you can record everything while changing the setting during the recording. Okay, so it's not that tough. Okay, most of the modern camera has to be handled setting and recording at the same time. Yes, but it's part of the what kind of situation and what kind of gear you are using, and it is really capable or not. But I'm suggesting, uh, while movement is really important, just go to the auto mode and record, because at that time subject is matter. Okay, and you can fix all those mistakes in post production, but recording is really important. Okay, yes. So now move to the next subject is fps. And what is fps? Fps means frames per second. Okay. So there are so many things. Okay, for what is FPS and how should we understand everything? There are so many things. I just need to set the proper light because I didn't really. Okay, it's really good light here. Okay. Yes. So first is the image sensor. Okay. First of all, what is image sensor and what is it means? Image sensor is kind of like a really important. Yes, image sensor is kind of like a sensor who can sense the subject. Okay, means the first image is shown to the sensor, and sensor is really important. Why I'm telling you all those things? Because in the older camera, um, in old camera, most of the people use reels. Okay, and what does these reels do? These reels is kind of like a exposing light in a particular way and capturing a moment, capturing things. Okay, but it is in the cellulite camera or cellulite. Is this all those things happen in cellulite? Okay, but right now it's kind of like a digitalization, so everything's happens in digital. So most of the data in the previous camera, most of the image is capture to the reels. That's a negative filter. Okay, and it is kind of like a, sometimes it's kind of like a really difficult to operate, but in the end you can do it. Okay, and it's kind of like a pretty expensive and it's really heavy. Yeah, but in the modern age, most of the things is changed by the digitalization, and the image is converted into data. And how all those things happen is, this thing happened because of this image sensor. Because image sensor can expose the light, and all those data, all those image converted into the uh, pixels, and those pixels in the end it's converted into the data, and you can store that data into the memory card. So in the modern camera we don't need any reels or negative reels. We just need a card and sensor. So it's really important. In older camera there are so many things, like there is so many limitation, like you do need to expose the proper light. But in the modern camera you can change everything. Like most of the camera, they are also available for raw format. And what does it do? Raw format, it can capable to change everything. Like it can change, expose, it can change so many things. Yeah, I have no doubt about, but yes, it is. Then I digital projector. Okay, there are so many things like digital projector and what is FPS. So let's talk about direct subject. Okay, digital projector is also part of the frames per second, but most of the these things is has to be happened in old times. Yes, because projector and camera reels, you do need to understand for the motion picture capture. You do need to understand all those things, but right now there are not so matter. Because of that, most of the image and most of the things do we record is converted into the data, and data is can transfer to one media to another media. So basically it's not that thing. Like in previous the reel is really important, the projector is also really important, and projector size, reel size is really important. But today's world is not that. Today's world is like image sensor. It can convert into the data, so it is really good. Okay, it's really amazing. So yes. So first thing, what is FPS? Most of the people is kind of like a say FPS means first person view. Okay, like FPV, that means uh, FPS, first person FPS, frames per seconds, first person, sorry, view, nahi, first person, as for uh, first person, whatever. There are the FPS means frames per seconds. Okay, right now just pause for the moment. I just need to get some lube. Okay, so FPS means frames per seconds. So what is frames per seconds and what can it do? It is like um, video is just not just a video. Okay, you do need to understand when you are watching some sort of video. That means you are watching continuous photos taken by the camera continuously in particular frame rate. So what is frame rate? That means your camera is, when you are set your camera to the 24 fps, that means your camera is capturing a photos, 24 photos in 1 seconds. Okay, so that means when your camera is capturing 24 photos in just 1 seconds, so whatever you shoot, just like 1 minute video or 30 seconds video, that means each seconds contain 24 photo. That means 30 seconds into 24 photo, that means 24 into 3, that means that means 72 72 uh, 720 photos in 30-second videos. So that is too much. Okay, and it is just a 30 seconds photo, so it's just like 30 seconds of video, so it is too much data. But when you are watching continuous photo, you feel that the picture is moving, and that is happening just because of that. When you are watching continuously, when your photos is changing continuously and very rapidly, so every video takes photos. Okay, so you do need to understand, and that is one frame, that means one photo. Okay, so you get that point. When you shoot at 24 fps, means your camera is recording 24 photos per seconds. Okay, uh, then there is a question: how many frame rates are captured each seconds? That means 24 most of the time is 60, 30, 25, or else 120 fps. 120 fps is kind of like a really high frame rate. So yes, it is really difficult to say while shooting and uh, listening. Listening, how many frame rates are projected in each seconds? So most of the time, uh, is frames is converted into the data. So projection is not that matter. Yeah, whatever you record, it can project. So yes. Then higher fps will create fluid motion. Yes, obviously, when you are shooting at 60 fps or 120 fps, that means everything looks really really smooth. And when you are looking really smooth, it's kind of like a really unnatural. Okay, so you do need to understand. Okay, while you are using unnatural footage, it's not gonna look good. Okay, so yes, I don't really take a photos, and it will be really good for me. One. Okay, is recording. This is recording. Okay, so how many frames are capturing each seconds? It's depend upon the camera settings. Most of the camera use 24 or 25, but there is also an option like 30 fps, 60 fps, and 120 fps. So yes, how many frame rates are projected in each second? Projection is not that matter today's world, because most of the projector are digital projector, and digital projector has sensor like image sensor, which is already exist in camera sensor. And those camera sensor, those converted into the data, into the image. So it's not that matter, because everything is in data format. So projection is not that matter. Whatever you frame rate you record, it can project. So yes, higher fps will create fluid motion. Definitely yes, because when you are shooting at 60 fps and 120 fps, that is look really fluid and really unnatural. Why I'm saying is unnatural, because your human eye are kind of like seeing like 24 fps for understanding all those things. 24 fps, how should you say something like that? Okay, so just like you take hand in front of your eyes, okay, and focus on the finger, okay, and move your hand, and can you focus on your fingers? No, because your hand is moving and you cannot uh, looking. It's kind of like looks really blur. And how is this blur? Uh, how is this blur? You saw this thing because of that. Ki everything is kind of like in the motions. You feel some sort of blurriness. And how is this blurriness has to be seen, because this object is kind of like a moving. Okay, as at that time you feel some sort of blurriness. Okay, so most of the people are seeing through the eye, and our eyes are kind of like related with the 24 fps or 25 fps, mostly more than 30 fps, but not more than that. Okay, so basically it's kind of like a your choice, but most of the, it's kind of like a rule, but the rule are not meant to be broken. It has to be made for the broken, but it doesn't look really good. Okay, but that is not just a choice. Like most of the time you are using higher frame rate, right, 60 fps or 120 fps for slow motion, because slow motion looks really good. So at that time you do need to record at higher frames per record seconds. But when you are some sort of dialogue situation, I recommend use 24 fps, because it's really good. Okay, and most of the filmmakers record 24 fps in dialogue scenes. So okay, Then another is higher FPS allow to slow motion. Yes, obviously I'll definitely say higher FPS can look unnatural. I already explained this thing. FPS is used in both recording and playback. Yes, obviously most of the FPS is definitely use whatever you record. Like I'm recording this video in 24 FPS, so while you are playback you can see all those things in 24 FPS. So it's from about 16 frames per second, the persistence of vision will kick in, and the human eye cannot uh, perspective the individual frames. Silence movies often use the frames rate. However, it is insufficient to synchronization correctly with the sound. What is this mean? This means is our eye is meant to be see uh, not more than 24 fps, but not less than 24 fps. When you are shooting at 12 or 16 fps, you see some sort of jerkness. And how is this jerkness? Is jerkness when you see some sort of things uh, at like images, some sort of things like stop. Okay, so uh, basically you are recording 16 fps, you can see some sort of jerks in video. Okay, so I'm recommending not use less than 24. Okay, so it's not really good. Okay, and what is this sound means? What is it? Sound is actually, I'm not says that sound is too much matter. Because of that, most of the digital camera, what they can do with the sound, they actually print audio format and video format separately and put all those layer in one single file. How is this thing happened? Okay, actually, camera don't really synchronize what we are saying and what we are seeing. Yes, means I'm not really understand. It's like that. Okay, when inside the camera there is a clock. I'm saying is that it's kind of like a atomic clock or whatever. But that clock is while you are start recording, it can start record audio and visuals at the same time, but different layer, like audio layer and video layer. Okay, and when you are ending the clip, that means you are ending the video layer and audio layer at the same time, but those are layer is kind of like a uh, different layer, but in the end those layer are merged in together, and we can see audio and video is perfectly aligned with each other, and that is has to be happened. Because of that, both the time, like start and end, both the layers start at exact same time and end with exact same times. When is this thing not happened? It's kind of like a synchronization is not really good. Okay, so it's really important. But how is this frame rate can affect the audio, or what is exactly happening? Well, it's kind of like a really difficult. Yeah, I don't really understand what is exactly happening while you are recording audio. Recording, it means the guy is telling something. Okay, and we will record in 24 fps and then 30 fps. सोनू हा डॉग पण एवढा कल्ला करते. घरी कोणीच नाही का आता या मोमेंटला. तिकडून फिरून आलं आणि घरात येऊन पुतळ याची माय कुठे गेली. नाही याची माय कुठे. मैत्रिणीसोबत. वरती So how is this thing happened, and just like sound is kind of like really affecting the frame rates. Well, I don't really exactly know about these things. Most of the people, they say like frame rates can affect the sound quality, but it's something really different. I don't really understand this thing. So yes. So fluid motion. What is exactly a fluid motion? The fluid motion, that means what you can see, it's completely fluid and completely smooth. And how is this thing happened? When you are shooting at higher frame rates, I'm talking about 60 or 120 fps, that means in 1 second it has almost like 60 fps. That means 60 frames. Uh, that means twice of your frames rate. Okay, so when you are see so much frame in just single seconds, so it is kind of like a looks really smooth. Okay, so fluid motion is has to be taken as a higher frame rate. Most of the people use higher frame rate, they didn't use fluid motion, but it's kind of like a way of telling the thing about the higher fps will reduce the motion blur and give a fluid appearance. It it will also allow for better low low motion detail, but higher FPS is not always the best choice. Yes, exactly. I'm saying is that higher FPS is not always a choice. Yes, because it's not good. Something is really better, but something is not. There are the common FPS are built in the camera, and what are those FPS? Is 24 FPS. Okay, most of the broadcasting media and movies, they are use those frame rates, and it is really good. Okay, 24 FPS is really amazing. And there is also a standard for the video production. Okay, because of that, some sort of standard set by the television industry and satellite industry, not satellite but most of the television industry, they can set 24 fps because there are so many things. When you are broadcasting things in higher frame rate, it is kind of like some things really complicated. So you do need to understand what is the standard. There are the PAL and NTES standard. Actually, PAL is kind of like a Europe standard. And what is Europe standard? They says 24 FPS and 48 FPS. So those are the Europe. Mostly in Europe broadcasting industry, they are using 24 FPS. Yes, in FPS, that means PAL standard. Then there is NTES standard, broadcasting standard. What is NTES? I don't really know what is the full form of North. Sorry, Atlant. I don't really know full form of the NTES standard, but it is says 25 FPS and 30 FPS. It is actually not the 25 FPS. It says it's it says it says 24 25 FPS. And then there is a 30 FPS, that is a new standard. Okay, and what is the 30 FPS do? Actually, most of the new television format, that is a 30 FPS, because I'm talking about the previous, the technology changed very rapidly. So changing the frame rates is really important. But most of the broadcasting industry, they are set 30 fps is a new standard, because most of the TV screens are became wider and thinner, and they are kind of like a really good in broadcasting good image quality. So for good image quality and better preference to understand everything, most of the filmmaker use 30 fps. Okay, and that is kind of like a new standard. Then there is a 48 fps. You don't really know, there is so many 48 fps is not used oftenly, but in the 2 or 3 years ago, 48 fps is kind of like people are really, it is kind of like a fluid motions. Okay, because it is, there are standard right now is 24 fps, 25 fps and 30 fps. You cannot see 27 fps. No, it's 24, 25 and 30. And then there is a 60 fps, and then there is a 120 fps. You cannot see camera has 100 fps or like 52 fps. No, you cannot do that. Yeah, there is some sort of standard, so you do need to record in standard way. So previously, I'm talking about 4 or 5 years ago, people are using 48 fps, and 48 fps is kind of like a new format, and they are kind of like experimenting things what people like it. Most of the 48 fps is used for the fluid motion. And what is a fluid motion? I already explained this previously. Fluid motion is kind of like telling the story without blurriness. Yes, you cannot see blur. And sometimes it is really good, but sometimes it's not really good. Okay, because it's look really unnatural. There is a picture has to be recorded in 48 fps. I don't know the movie, but the name is Hobbit, and the director record 48 fps, and 48 fps is hey, people use 48 fps, and there are so many criticism is happened after that movie, and in the end 48 fps is banned or block. There are standard frame rate is 24, 25, 30, 60, and 120. Okay, and after that there are some sort of in after two there are so many frame rates, but I don't really use those frame rates, and I don't know how much things happens when you are using some sort of. Okay, put it on the next. Then there is a 60 fps. 60 fps is used for the fluid motion, and most of the people or most of the filmmaker use 60 fps for the slow motion, because slow motion is kind of like a really amazing, and it looks really good. Most of the love romantic songs, there the mood has to be happen in slow motion. So slow motion gives you really nice smooth look, and for that slow motion you do need to record in 60 fps. Okay, and then there is a 120 fps, and 120 fps that means so much, it is super slow motion. Yes, and it is really good, it looks way even better. Thamvarti, actually there is my dog, and he's I'm in the terrace right now, and he's try to say that let go me. Okay, chal. Thumb, 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 thumb. this dog don't let me talk about everything. At this speed, I cannot record. There is 45 minutes and I'm not completing my session. So there is a things for 24 fps. The 24 fps became the standard due to the soundtrack that was optically recorded onto the film, synchronizing naturally. It also gives a natural blur to movement similar to the human eye. So you do need to understand 24 fps, why most of the filmmaker use 24 fps. While some sort of dialogue situation happened, you do need to record 24 fps. Okay, because it's properly sync to the audio and it gives smooth transition. Then we are talking about the resolution. Okay, 3840 into 2176, it gives 3.8 million pixel, or should I say 4K. Pixels are measured in length by height. Aspect ratio will affect the amount of pixels you can reduce high resolution to lower resolution, but not the other way around. Not all device will allow for change to FPS. Right now we are talking about the resolution, but is this detail is not exactly is this good, but there are so many details I'm gonna tell you. Okay, so there are the resolution. And what is the resolution? Resolution means how many pixels are put the images into the video. Okay, and each and it's actually a video, that means it takes a photos, and photos can made up with the small pixels, and these pixels count as a resolution. Okay, so 1 by 1 resolution, that means 1 pixel. Okay, in 1 pixel in height, 1 pixel in width. Okay, so there is some sort of standard when you have 720 pixels in height and 1280 pixels in width, and when you are multiplying this thing, that means you have 7,77,600 pixels. You can that means that resolution is 720 pixels. That means really close to the million pixels in one single box. Okay, then there is another resolution is 1080 resolution. And what is 1080? That means in the frame is height is 1080 pixels in height and 1920 pixels in width. Okay, so this resolution called 1080 resolution. Okay, and also this called full HD. Then there is another resolution oftenly most of the filmmakers, YouTubers use, and that is resolution is 4K. That means ultra high definition. Okay, and there is ultra high definition means 2160 pixels in height and 3840 pixels in width. That means 4 point. That means there are 8 lakh 29,400 and something million pixels in each frame. So that means the video quality is 4K. You do need to understand photos is always much higher resolution than video. Okay, how is this thing? Like, I have a 16 megapixels of camera and 16 megapixels camera. That means 16 million pixels in each photos. But when I record video, it takes only just 1 million photos, 1 million, or it just like 1080. That means close to the 1 million. But my camera is capable of 16 million. Then how is this thing happened? Because of that, the video resolution is always less than photo resolution. Photos have really higher resolution. Most of the basics camera, they can shoot a photos, they can capturing the photos with very higher resolution, more than 4K, almost like 8K or 10K. Okay, 8K it's too much, but oftenly more than 4K. Okay, but in the video it is because how is this thing happened? Because of that, key camera is capturing the pixels, and you do need to understand when you says 16 million pixels in each frame, and each frame consists and each frame, and there are the 24 frames in seconds. So that means so many data, too much data. Okay, so it cannot be possible. Yeah, it is possible. Most of the IMAX cameras, they use some sort of technology, but it's kind of like really expensive, and camera it's really heat up while doing this, because camera has to do really lots of doing work. So it's kind of like a resolution is not that matter. It's matter like you can differentiate the resolution when you are seeing something really bigger screen. Okay, like you have really big screen like 52 or a 62-inch TV, then you can differentiate 720 and 1080p. Okay, but if you are using a mobile, you cannot differentiate 720, 1080 or 4K also. So it's something really, but you do need to know about this thing. Okay, Then there is aspect ratio. Okay, there are so many things do need to cover, but right now I'm kind of tired of telling this thing, and I'm kind of like a disturbing so much things going on because of my sister has a little child, and also in my house a dog, and I have to do so many housework also, so I disturb so many times. But um, if I get some time, I will definitely improve my quality attending lecture, taking notes, and because it's really important for me, it's really important for my future. So I will keep doing this. Okay. Also, there is one thing is artifact episode. That means you do need to record what is exactly happens today, and there is nothing much happens. Yes, I wake up at the morning, do your routine work, okay, attending the lecture. I didn't really work on my project. Why? Because I think it's like attending lecture is important, so I will keep doing this. But it will do. I can do this till the end of the Pune journey, okay. And after the completing the Pune journey, then I will work on my project, okay. But during this period of time, I do need to attend the lecture and complete the module. Okay. Because there is so many things I do need to record or do need to understand while filming. So right now this is it. This is the end. This is the my artifact episode number 2174 5. Right now we are at Varda, Maharashtra. Thank you.